All right, let's go ahead and get started. Firstly, hopefully everyone can hear me. I'm actually undergoing some allergies right now, so can't really speak too loudly. Um, I've gotten some quite a bit of views and a couple subscribers for the last couple of videos, and just want to make a clarification of why I'm pretty much making these videos. I don't really I don't really have a good answer. I just have a lot of things to really talk about MULN, and to be perfectly honest, I would like to really document it because this thing is either going to do something incredible or it's really not. Tonight we have, or rather, right now it is 9:33 p.m. Eastern time. In 27 minutes, ChaCha is going to be doing an interview with David Michery. I'm going to be recording that and then uploading this video afterwards. But wanted to talk a little bit about the charts today and go over basically pretty much everything that happened with the couple of videos that I posted earlier today. And if anyone out there is finding these videos helpful, please let me know in some comments. A few people have already commented, and like I said, I'm not really looking for a big gathering. I need to document this stuff for my own personal needs and a lot of people as well too. And we can sit here and talk about this all day long. Okay, so let's go ahead and collapse this. Once again, if you guys do not know these lines right here, they're daily pivot levels. Pivot levels are created through previous highs and lows on days. Resistance level 1, resistance level 2, resistance level 3, support level 1, support 2, support 3. Typically, if you are a day trader, these levels are going to be very much bread and butter. Same thing for swing trading, entering and exiting positions. Long-term traders really do not use pivot levels all that much. Exponential moving averages, I used 4. I used the 9, 21, 48, 200. We're on the 1 minute time frame, so every single one of these candlesticks represents 1 minute throughout the day from 9:30 a.m. of market open up until market close and the after hours at 8 p.m., which we got very little volume, and also buying and selling in after hours too, which is also good. So, previous video that I made was talking about how opened up, and MULN ended up dropping the news today a little bit after market open, which basically pretty much reversed this kind of like sell-off. But we did break the S1. And if you notice throughout the entire day, the 200 EMA, which is the average of 200 candlesticks on the 1 minute time frame, it's an absolute downward trend. You can just see it. It's moving down. So the entire day, MULN was just naturally trending down. Typically, when a stock breaks the first S1, a lot of times they'll go ahead and try to challenge that again, and we did at 10:57. We bounced off the S1. We broke the S1 at 9:30, and then we broke above it, and then the S1 became support again. If MULN did not drop news today, the S1 would have been resistance, and we probably would have gone down to test to the S2. Maybe we would have bounced up like this and then came back down. Who knows? We could have broken the S2 and then maybe fell all the way, did something like this. But the fact that we ended up doing the opposite, oh, fucking allergies. We did the opposite. The news that MULN released today did have some pretty decent positivity out there, and it kept us above the S1, and then we trended down 10:57. This is all what I'm seeing. This is technical analysis, not fundamental analysis. I am a day trader, swing trader. I cover technical analysis. I do have a position right now. I'm actually down on my position about like 9%, but I really do think something incredible could very well be brewing. Past couple videos, I talk more about my history with this asset as well. But moving on, we trended up around lunchtime, and then strangely, sadly, and after power hour, which typically begins around 2 p.m. Eastern, we just started falling off. We tested the S1 again at 1500, and then we just fell below there. Good thing on a good. So, firstly, do I think today was bad? No. Do I think today was good? Yes and no. We had low volume once again. That's bullish. It appears no dilution is happening. That's also very bullish. We have very choppy volume, which, like I stated before, just no one is really buying or selling. But the trend right now is just naturally down. We're down on the entire day 2.29%. For those of you who have been following this asset, 2.29% down for one day is a blessing. There have been days where this thing has been down by 20.9%. It's not been good. So 2.29% is really nothing. But in the afternoon, we kind of just really trended and got pushed. But on a good note, we did not challenge S2. We stayed above the S2, and ultimately we ended up pushing a little in between the S1 and S2. We didn't challenge the S2, good. We didn't break the S2, which is also really good. So tomorrow, obviously, the S2 and S1 is going to be significantly lower. The S1 tomorrow might be actually where the S2 is, and so forth and so forth. But we didn't make a new all-time low. We didn't do anything crazy, and we didn't fall off a cliff. Now let's go to the daily time frame. So each one of these candlesticks represent one day. So this is today, and this is actually something very, very incredible, and I'm actually looking at this as well. So RSI is pointed down. It's not terrible. I do look at the RSI religiously to really predict where things might be going, but a lot of these green gigantic days comes with news. MULN moves on news. So if we get really amazing news tomorrow, this RSI could be, the opposite. We could go from 39 to 52 incredibly quick, which would be an insane jump in price as well. But if we were to draw some levels here, you basically see how we have what appears to be a pretty solid forming bottom. And yes, we have broken this bottom, here and there. We've pushed down a little bit, but on a daily time frame, if you break the bottom, it's not the end-all be-all. Now, if MULN were to do something like this, if MULN does something like this, I'd be concerned, and I would be down probably like 20% of my position. I'd actually probably sell like half of my position for a loss. This is also not financial advice. This is just something I would personally mitigate to really think about, because something like this means we could potentially do a waterfall where we free fell from essentially all the way from 14 all the way down rapidly. But as you see, we're kind of really doing the opposite. We're just really challenging a new bottom. So something that could very well happen is if we maintain this bottom, especially tomorrow is going to be critical to really see if we hold this new bottom. And we could ultimately just bounce off a little bit, maybe close tomorrow around 675, which would be extremely bullish and really good. But ultimately what we want to see is something what went on over here. We touched a bottom area, and then we trended up. This was a massive green day, massive news, and then we sold off in the news, but we also didn't touch back on the bottom, and then we got pushed up with more news again, pushed all the way up, we ended up challenging this area of resistance on this day. We could not get above it, so we sold off the next day, challenged this area, could not make it, so we pretty much. But you see, here's the crazy thing. These days, all these green gigantic days are on news. Like MULN just defies all logic and all. I could sit here and I could teach anyone technical analysis and how to day trade and swing trade, but all this stock defies everything on news. If this stock has good news, it's gonna pump. So all these gigantic pumps are based on fucking news. They're based on revenue news. And that's ultimately what we need. We need news based on revenue. If we get anything revenue regardless, we can ultimately do this. I can tell you this: if we get any news, if we get news tomorrow about the $17 million that we invoiced, if we get a check for 10 million out of the 17 million, you're gonna see you're gonna see a straight just bounce. I don't know how high it's gonna be, but it's gonna bounce. It's definitely gonna challenge, I would say, this area. So it's going to challenge the low sevens significantly. But ultimately, high areas of resistance is, of course, mid-7 range. And then we're just going to go backtrack. Go up to around like $8. And then we got to break this entire downward. It pretty much looks like an ascending wedge we're kind of making from this point. But it also looks like an inverse head and shoulders too. So we could very well be creating an inverse head and shoulders, which goes all the way back up to $9, $10 is a big psych level too. Anything can really happen, but the daily time frame is nothing to like lose your shit over like it was maybe last year. If anything, the daily time frame is not terrible. The last thing that I'll really say is that if we go ahead and look at Tesla, this is on the 1 minute time frame. Look at the downward trend. MULN is now moving along with the broader market and also Tesla. Tesla, if you noticed, around it's, where is it? 18, what the hell is going on? Oh wow, that's after hours. Oh yeah. Woo. Okay, they didn't, yeah, Tesla did not have a good day. Tesla down 4.5%. Woo. They even went down during after hours. So if you notice, here it is. There it is. MULN started going down at 3 o'clock, 1500, and soon after, Tesla started pushing down even harder. So, if Tesla goes up by 10% tomorrow, MULN can definitely move too. That's also a very positive note that MULN is theoretically moving with Tesla in the market. Lastly, one last thing before I basically turn off recording until David Michery comes on the X call, Twitter call. Business Dad did post a new video today about MULN. He's only really posting videos about MULN now whenever they pretty much drop news. It's a good video. He has some really good points as well. If you haven't done so, make sure to definitely check out his new video too. And going to be waiting until David gets on the space call and then throw this into a video and upload it, and I'll be making a new video tomorrow as well. So if you guys enjoyed this video, and let's see what David has to say.
Hey, good evening, ChaCha. How are you?
Hey, David. Thanks for joining.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's been almost a year trying to get you on space.
Well, we're real busy. It's been a very interesting year, to say the least.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on, and I saw Fisker news after hour, and so potentially another one, biting the dust. We'll see.
Well, I don't wish anything bad on anybody. I wish
Yeah.
them all the best. I hope that whatever they got going on, they can recover from. And again, the space in general seems to be under a tremendous amount of pressure.
Yeah, for sure.
So hopefully, again, I wish them all the best. I do see that James Jim Taylor joined us.
Yep.
Maybe we can do a formal introduction.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, so I'll kind of do a quick intro. Obviously, David, you don't need an intro. But I'll do a quick intro on the James, and then I got some uh, things to do or to-do list before we get started. So I'll do that from the disclaimer perspective. So I was told to read off that. So before we get started, I will read that off and get it going. We have a few questions. They came from the investors. So James, welcome. So if you don't know James, the James background, he's been with GM for 32 years. He was the CEO of Hummer, and then he also took the role after that as a president of a Cadillac as well. So he got wealth of experience on then obviously automobile sector. So I'll let you kind of intro yourself, James, and then we'll get things started.
I
Yeah,
think,
why don't you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, David.
yeah, I think it might be best
Yep.
for you to read your disclaimer. But prior to
First,
that, I just want to make a quick
Right.
correction. It's James Jim Taylor. He's
yep.
been with General Motors for 42 years and formerly the CEO of Hummer and the president of Cadillac, and primarily focused on technologies as well as distribution, manufacturing, engineering, sales, you name it. Jim has been at every aspect of GM's growth over the last 42 years. So we're proud to have brought him to MULN to head up all of our global EV operations. So with that, I'll let you go ahead and run your disclaimer, and then we can have Jim give a little bit of background and
Okay.
how he feels about the space currently we're all in, that we're all trying to understand, and then get into any Q&A session that you would like to start with. So with that, ChaCha, take it away.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was told 32 years, but we can talk about that as James go through. But I will start with the disclaimer. So I think there's quite a bit. So I'll read through this. So this content of this interview, I don't consider this interview more of a talk between shareholders. But anyway, the comment may be made by CEO of MULN Automotive. Collectively, the company is for discussion purpose only. The company does not represent that information provided accurate or complete in all respect, and it should not be relied upon as such. The interview contains forward-looking statements which are subject to risk, uncertainties, and assumptions. In some cases, you can identify these statements by forward-looking words such as may, might, will, should, expect, plan, anticipate, believe, estimate, predict, optimistic, potential, future, or continue. Negative of these terms are their comparable terminology. Such a forward-looking statement are based on current plans, estimates, and expectations are made pursuant to Private Securities Litigation Reform Act of 1995. Forward-looking statements are based on known and unknown risk, assumption, uncertainties, and other factors. The company actual result, performance, and achievement may offer materially from any future results, performance, achievement expressed or implied by such a forward-looking statement. The company does not assume responsibility for accuracy or completeness of any forward-looking statement, and you should not rely on forward-looking statement as a prediction of future events. The company is under no duty to update any of those forward-looking statements to confirm them to actual results or revised expectations. Any investment in MULN Automotive will be subject to certain risks related to the future or nature of the company's business and the structure and the operation of the company. Any investment in the company should be made only on appreciation of the applicable risk and described in the company's filing with the SEC. So that's it. So that's the disclaimer. That's quite a bit. So I'll hand it over to James for intro.
Yeah, thanks, ChaCha. Yeah, just to pick up where David and you left off, as both of you introduced, is spent a lot of time in this industry and a significant amount of time in almost every aspect of the verticals. So I have a pretty good understanding of what it takes to put cars together, first from the engineering standpoint, manufacturing, as well as then finally in the sales and marketing space. But let's be honest, this whole EV era and the introduction of electric vehicles has turned the industry a little bit on its head and has rewritten a lot of the rule books. Certainly, as Tesla plowed the way. So we say it's a little bit of the Wild West, and so not everything that was successful, for the traditional OEMs during all that time is part of the future playbook. A lot of it is. And so in our team, as we've staffed up, we've got a good blend of people that are, let's say, brand new, and then quite a few sort of my vintage that have been down the road and are able to make, very quick decisions based on a lot of experience and, move things along quickly. So it's exciting. It's extremely stressful and a lot of challenge on all the OEMs, but also, of course, the startups like MULN. So this is a kickoff. When David called, we call it dating for a long time. Where David was interested in me aligning with him, and then a few years ago he called and said, "Hey, can you join the team?" And my answer was, if you're interested in, adding the commercial vehicle lineups, to your portfolio of plans that you currently have, then, I'm in, sure. Because I thought at that time and still do that that's an area of the business that small companies and startups could be very successful in versus the huge amount of investment and the competition in the retail side. So that was an agreement. Then we went forward and quickly bought Elms out of bankruptcy and also Bollinger. And that put us, I'd say sort of started at second and third base instead of starting, all over and from the very beginning. So that allowed us to get to market extremely fast and move into the sales business as opposed to the typical 4 or 5 years that it takes to start, from scratch. So we had an agreement, and then as time has moved on, and as Mullen's virtually all focused on the launch of our commercial vehicle lineups and have taken those to market and are on sales. So the plan has worked out as we put it together a few years ago with David, and that's where we're still focused today. So it's been a good partnership with David, with him. I'd say, unfortunately for him, focusing on all of the fundraising and the markets and the board and the shareholders, and he leaves me to run all the operations and the plants and things. So that's our partnership. So ChaCha, when you ask some of these questions, whatever is coming up, I'll probably take on some of these operating ones, because that's where I focus, and then some of the more corporate finance ones and things like that, then David will do. So we'll just divide and conquer here as you go through your questions.
Yeah. Thanks for the intro and great to have you on the MULN team and all the past experience. I'm sure those will add on a lot of aspects of the company from the growth and expertise and people that you've been working with as far as networking wise, right, from a Detroit perspective. So thank you, appreciate it. So I do have a lot of questions. I think there was about 40, 50 questions, and I think we filtered down to about 5 or 6 questions. So I will ask those questions, and as you said, David or James, you guys can tag team it and answer those questions. So if as far as retail goes, if there's a questions hadn't answered, David, has those questions. So when time is right, we'll ask him to come back and address it. But I'm gonna ask on some of those questions already been clear from the legal perspective. So the first question, James or David. So the first question was, how many shifts are being worked on the Class 1 EV cargo vans and the Class 3 EV trucks?
ChaCha, that's a real good question. And I think that the appropriate person to respond to that question would be Jim. Jim, by all means, please.
Great. Well, again, probably a lot of the shareholders here understand our manufacturing layout, but just in case, our plant's in Tunica, Mississippi. That's about an hour south of Memphis, and we had a very, very, again, quick startup from the point of time of installation equipment to the start of our operations there. We have 2 distinct, independent assembly lines, one for the Class 1 and one for the Class 3. And again, it's in all of our releases. The capacity we have on those 2 is 3,000 for the Class 3 and 12.5 1,000 for the Class 1. So we're just right now operating on one shift for both of the current capacity and acceleration coming from the beginning. And, two things is obviously we're just coming to market, but also in back to our experience profile is, you try to bite off what you can chew. So to manage just one shift, get all of the people up, and then you typically roll over and use the core people in that first shift to train the second shift. So it was all part of our plan to just be on one shift for the first year.
Got it. Got it. Thank you for the answer. The second question, will MULN be collaborating with any other OEM, auto manufacturers in the future to create ammo cargo van, what van that is PHEV, I guess these, or has DC integrated DC fast charging?
Again, excellent question. It's amazing how a lot of these questions are questions that the company has been either exploring or has taken a path to homologating vehicles with those types of features. I know that our Class 1, which you call our M1, is currently being homologated for a two-seater, and we are again. I will defer to Jim about the integration of level two, DC fast charging. Jim, I think it's a good question, and
Yep.
please, by all means.
Yeah, it's definitely an important feature for the customers on the Class 1 and Class 3. So on yours with the M1, it's a relatively small battery. So at this point in time, we have, of course, level 1, 110, but also the level 2. If it was a large battery, like the 100 kilowatt batteries in a lot of the cars, or even our Class 3, then, of course, the time to charge that with just level 1 and 2 would be a lot longer. But the Class 2, the Class 1 vehicle with level 2 charging is more than adequate for an overnight charge. Again, we're commercial, and it's typically a fleet that comes in the garage at night. But we will be introducing that level 3 DC charging just a little bit after the two-seater is launched come this late summer, fall. So that's coming this year, this calendar year. We'll be adding the DC fast charging. As far as the hybrid or the PEV, as you said, to kind of go, I call it a little bit backwards. And, typically the migration is gas to PHEV to full electric. We're kind of already down and committed into the pathways of providing, our customers with full electric, and that's where we're going to be. So, you also say never, but at this point in time in our product plans, we don't have any outlook for us taking on, say, a hybrid. Having to go backwards into adding gas and emissions is not part of the big time, long-term play, and not what's going to solve, kind of the emissions issues for this country. So we're sticking to all EV at this point in time.
Yeah, so I have a follow-up question to that, from my side. It's hopefully it's not really out of the question, so hopefully I'll be okay asking this. But I know, whole industry, right, following NACS, which is the, Tesla standard, right, for charging. So is that something you guys are looking into that as well? I know Bollinger said they have plans for it, but I just wanted to, get your take on from a MULN side of things for MULN 1 and
Yep.
3 and then 5.
The short answer is definitely. And so
Okay.
part of what I mentioned a little bit earlier about the timing, we had an earlier timing for the introduction of that DC charging, as we just talked about on the Class 1. But once it was obvious that we should be, adaptable to that standard, then it took a little longer in our timeline to accommodate the right interfaces and put in those new connectors. So the short answer is yes, it will be going there as well.
All right, appreciate it. The third answer, or third question, sorry. So I think this is, I've been to this facility with David's invite last, was it November, end of November timeframe. So when is the battery production starting? All other government approvals are done to sell batteries to other companies.
Great question, ChaCha. When I invited you to the facility, we were in the process of moving the equipment that we had acquired in the Romeo Power asset acquisition, and I wanted you to see the magnitude of what was being built. We're in the process now of running programs and running packs through what we call pilot production and integrating and programming up to what we call high volume production. Currently, the operations are running what we use as conventional chemistry, which is our CATL standard chemistry in our current class 1 and class 3, and current chemistry that would potentially go to former customers of Romeo Power and buying packs when they do become available, utilizing both the Hermes and the Legions systems that we've acquired in the asset purchase. But as far as advanced battery solutions and what we're doing, we've made public disclosures about our solid state polymer technology, and we now are testing it in a drivable fashion within our class 1 vehicle. At some point, we're working towards scaling that to the vehicle pack high volume production level. And Jim, if you'd like to add a little bit about where Jerry's at and what you believe our timeline would be to full scale high volume solid state polymer packs in our vehicles for customer purchases.
Sure. I'll expand on that. And just a little bit more, ChaCha packages very quickly when this equipment's tuned up. As you said, we're in a pilot mode. So, that could be 6 to 8 months where we're rolling batteries out there very quickly. I mean, people think those are long times, but in automotive timing, that's, super fast. And then as David said, we have another parallel path going on by jumping into the conversion of our current van, the class 1 and class 3 trucks for those packs. And then third one that David said is important to the solid state as a new chemistry and an upgrade giving us much longer range and other advantages that solid state brings, safety and some other things. So really there's numerous plays going on that plant with different lines that all have, sort of different timing startups from 6 to 8 months, 12 to 14 months. And the big, unknown in this when you get into it, and I know people try to simplify this and tie you down, how long, and what you get into in the validation period of these is a lot of the pack testing. If everything goes smooth, we always have a plan of record. We anticipate, 12 to 18 months, 18 to 24. And what you kind of don't plan on is the surprises. So, we can be here. That's why we always range it, 6 to 8 months in the quick side. It could be 12 to 18 months on the other. Our plan right now is, is to be in a position to have packs in 12 months, that solid state packs that could substitute inside of the van. So I feel like the forward-looking statement, though, when I finish that, because, we get into testing and, things happen. So, but at this point, things go well. Those are the kind of timelines that we could be under.
Okay.
I'll
So I,
ChaCha to interrupt you, and I will add one more fact in support of what Jim is saying. Again, this is a game changer in the sense that we would be introducing new chemistry to the world on an homologated, meaning of packs have to be homologated, right? You have to be able to have them tested, right? There has to be testing as it relates to durability, crash testing, water intrusion. These are all types of things that you have to go through to have a safe pack installed into a safe vehicle. To take a new chemistry, something that nobody has had experience with, and to be the first guy to take that to a pack into a productionized vehicle and sell it to a consumer, that's really where I think the whole area changes, and it takes one guy like us to set the stage for the entire industry to follow. And we've progressively have been very quiet about what we've been doing. I always tell people proof is in the pudding, right? Listen, we're not going to tell you anymore we're going to do it. We're just going to go out and do it. We're going to show you video of the actual testing. You're going to see the vehicle driving around the streets labeled solid state, powered by solid state polymer. Again, our focus at this point and where we're at in our evolution is, we're going to show you. We're not going to tell you, we're going to show you. With that, Jim's team, are some of the best people, in America, if not the entire world, working to achieve these goals and these mandates that I've given them. I've put a tremendous amount of pressure on the team. There's no slowdown for us. We move at a rate of 200 miles an hour, 24/7. One of the reasons, and I'll go backwards a little bit, ChaCha, so that people understand the dynamic here. I've known Jim for about 8 years. I started pursuing Jim when I formed MULN and had meetings with Jim when Jim was the co-CEO of SOCON, and tried to basically get him to come over because I felt that the experience level, not just from an electric vehicle perspective, because SOCON was pioneering a lot of the electrical vehicle technology, on a global level, was the fact that Jim had firsthand OEM knowledge. Because I always thought the biggest problem, and I see it today, one of the reasons why Fisker, quote unquote, may go out of business is they had no real solution on how to get a product to the consumer and how to service that product and how to eventually provide an infrastructure of support. And I knew that at some point people were going to start to realize no matter how much money you have, it's going to come down to the knowledge. Money cannot buy knowledge. Knowledge and know-how is key, and you got to get it through experience. And what Jim brought, more than just the engineering and knowledge related to vehicle production and manufacturing and guidance, was how to sell excuse my language, how to sell a vehicle. One of the things he did at Cadillac and at Hummer, he managed massive networks of dealerships and knew how to create franchising structures and how to get vehicles into a point to where you can work on a national level to provide support, provide, God forbid, if there's issues related to recalls, how do you deal with customers that have on a wide scale issues. And these are things that people have a tendency to not look to support until they have an issue, and then it's too late. So we thought about that 8 years ago, and it took literally, I don't know, Jim, I would call you on, I don't know, on a quarterly basis, and the answer would be, you were very polite and respectful. It was like, no thank you. And eventually, I think when the opportunity came about is when you really gave it a serious look. And then, we're going on 2 years together now, right?
Yep, exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. So we're here today, guys, because we have the knowledge and the know-how, and it doesn't necessarily, all the money in the world isn't going to be able to buy that. What's going to be able to help you and help us get to the next level is being able to execute. And it's just an execution across the board from top to bottom. And Jim is one piece of a broad scale of execution. With that, ChaCha, you can continue.
Yeah, so I do have follow questions to that. So the polymer, right? Is that going into MULN 3 as well? And then also, if obviously the first part is putting the polymer into the MULN product, the vehicles, right? But is there opportunity to sell those to the other manufacturer, auto manufacturer?
Excellent question, ChaCha. Our goals are always to create verticals, opportunities for us to capitalize on our ingenuity and our creativity. And it would be almost, in my opinion, it would be horrible to do something that could change the entire space for an entire industry and not make it available to your counterparts. I don't look at them as competitors. I look at them as counterparts, and to help them help us, I think, is the right path. Jim, would you like to interject on that?
Yeah, I think just again, a short answer is both. We want to. I think one of the rules again of survival and success, ChaCha, one of my religions is focus. So one of the things that takes a lot of companies down, and there's been a few of them that I probably won't name names, but that took on way more than they could chew, and ultimately was their demise because they were going to do everything at once. And as a startup, that's one of the mistakes. You have to stay focused. So right now we're focused on the class one, get it up, get it engineered and get it successful and get out all of the initial engineering of that. But then certainly the answer is, yeah, we moved to class three. And if you just think of the ranges that, both those vehicles have now, if you can increase those 60, 70, 80%, it changes the game. So we absolutely have intentions of going to the three as well. But I don't want to unleash the team on that and spread them too
Sure.
thin, and then we don't get either of them done. So we're going to focus on the class one initially. But David's right. Then that foundation that we set there, the reason that we took on Fullerton was to have the capacity and the line capacity to also sell to other customers as well, not just ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I work for several startups as well on the tech side of things, and we can't take six different projects, right? We have to finish one and get that going before moving on to others. So definitely, you have to get that going first on the MULN one stuff. So absolutely. On the next question, will MULN Automotive will be interested in introducing mid-size? I think this is a class two van, right? I think this was prior to acquisition of LMs. I think the original plan was looking at the class two, David, right? So the question is there opportunity to look at the class two?
That's a
Yeah.
real good question, ChaCha. I actually tasked Jim with the responsibility of always keeping his eyes open. He has a lot of relationships with a lot of guys that are currently in our space, not only on what I call the startup level, but at the larger OEM level. And Jim is always looking for opportunities to um, accelerate our path to additional lines of commercial vehicles with mitigating the risk, meaning the cost. You never want to get into a situation where you have to go from from first base to home plate when you can start on third base and make it a shorter trip and mitigate cost. If the opportunity finds itself, it arises for us to be able to be cost effective, not only financially, but time wise, to get a class, say, two vehicle that is near completion with minimal cost and we can work some type of arrangement out. I think that that's a path we would take to a class two. But if it's going to be something where we would have to expend a tremendous amount of capital and resources and time, we're not interested in that. We're focused. We're prioritizing our commercial class one and class three and Bollinger's class 4 through 6. Jim, if you want to elaborate a little bit more on what our plans are related
Yeah.
to class two?
Yeah, I think that's such an important point, Chacha, that I want to even repeat what David said. So again, I keep coming back to startups, and one
Yep.
of my religions is it's always easier, Captain Obvious, to go where people aren't. So class one, as you know, and I want to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it every chance we get, is that there's nobody in that space. So if you're a startup and you're coming into very busy territory and you have to fight your way in, that makes already the startups of a challenge even harder. So the fact that there's nobody in class one now, the challenges are still high for us to penetrate the market, convert people to electric, but we're not fighting, all kinds of other extremely difficult customers that we have to kind of earn our way in vehicle by vehicle. Likewise in class three, there's no electric cab chassis right now. And as David said, is exactly the right answer. We've seen cases, and I can just name names because now it's history, but we look really close at Arrival, as they were restructuring and then finally closing. As did they have anything in their portfolio that David said, and this is key, we start on third. Are we shopping for anything that takes us $600 or $700 million to finish off? No. We looked at VIA. We looked at there was two criteria: how much does it cost to get to the finish line? Will it make money when it gets there? And how long is it going to take us? When we run those three criteria, if the answer is too long and too much money, and when I get there, I get to lose money, it's an easy no. So we're studying all the opportunities that come at us. But on the surface, if it doesn't pass those tests, we're not just going to go into class two because we want to be a complete, portfolio manufacturer, and it would look better to be 1 to 3. It has to fit those business goals before we go forward seriously.
Okay. So there's a follow-up question, and it's kind of in line with the class two, right? I think their questions are, there's a lot of last mile delivery, especially with big names like UPS, FedEx, right? So
Hmm.
is that some of the target that, being that Mullen one, it's too small for those guys, right? Rivian, and that might be a right size class two. So that's kind of the follow-up question. Are you guys interested in, or is there any type of opportunity with UPS, FedEx in the future?
Yeah, I'll grab that one too. Without, again, this, we got to be careful to dance a little bit too
Sure.
close to the flame here. But I think let's call it a fallacy, ChaCha, is that FedEx and UPS only buy Class 2s. That's not true. Certainly, what we all see pull up to the front of your house or your business is the Class 2s. That's the most popular one. But they also, did buy before old Class 1s that don't exist, and they also buy a lot of Class 3s. So let's just say we are in conversations with those kind of customers with the portfolio that we currently have. And again, I'll say that certainly the Class 2s are a large piece of the volume, but there is also volume in the other classes that we can talk to them about. And I'll add, Amazon in there too, not to be specific
Yeah.
in our case, but to say Amazon, UPS, and FedEx, of course, they own that delivery market. I know, but there's others, if you expand it, that are going into these kind of things, Kroger with food delivery and. So the number of use cases in this, you could go on and on and on if you add it up. But these guys are the high profile ones, so they get most of the attention, and certainly they buy a lot of volume. But we have plenty of opportunities, currently with our class 1 and 3. And, if you look at a lot of what was historically delivered in those big class 2 vehicles, and then see the changes in even the products and the kind of things with DoorDashes and flower deliveries and things that is actually opening up as the e-commerce space took over, like, to all of us, and changed the way we buy things. And you just get on Amazon, boom, I expect it here, do you want it 4 to 8 tonight or tomorrow morning? And you're ordering, a cable for your computer. Not everything's coming in a huge box. So they've got these overflow guys, they have peak hour guys, they have instant delivery guys. Their portfolios are expanding significantly. It isn't all just pre-programmed big box stuff. So anyways, long answer to say that in absence of our class 2, there's still plenty of customer space in that area for us.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I posted some of the pics before, but even Amazon has a cab, a type of truck, right? And then it's same for FedEx as well. So, so opportunities there, as you said. I do have 2 more questions. I think this is now kind of going on the other side. And the first one is, I ask if the share buyback plan is still on the company's agenda, or is this share buyback not in effect?
Excellent question, Cha-Cha. So, to be clear, our previous stock buyback program, it expired at the end of December, as we stated that it would run through December 2023. The adoption of the stock repurchase plan is at the discretion of our board. So it's not anything that would be too difficult to adopt. And if we adopt another stock buyback program, we will make an announcement at that time. We have to take into consideration money, right? What's the best use of MULN's capital? And again, I know that everybody would like us to rebuy, stock, but I think with today's environment was a lot different than it was a year ago, and capital is is king right now. Having cash, a lot of guys don't have cash, and you're seeing a lot of what's been transpiring in the last couple of months, in the electric vehicle space. With, I mean, honest to God, I was shocked today when I heard about Fisker. I mean, look, I think Hendrick's a great guy. Hendrick has designed great vehicles, the Fisker Rocket, the Aston Martin DB9, hell, the Tesla Model S. Sometimes being a great designer is one thing, being a great engineer is another thing, being a good businessman is the hardest thing. So you have to make really tough decisions. And in time, you have to look at your administration. And the only way you can judge it is not in the present, it's after the administration, it's post administration. And you look at the moves that whatever administration has made. You'll look at Elon's administration at Tesla, and you'll value it not at the present, but 10 years from now, and where has it gone and how does it end up? every opportunity that anybody gets to throw rocks at not just MULN. I say vehicle, I don't mean just electric vehicles. It could be hydrogen vehicles. It could be ICE vehicles. For God's sakes, it could be vehicles that run on water. But anything that moves on four wheels, to me is a vehicle. Commercial, consumer, whatever it is. There's always going to be criticism because it's not about the vehicle, it's about the business of the vehicle to make money, right? This is a business with an agenda to make money. One, how do you get from point A to point B? And one of the things that I want to focus on, because since you brought up, the buyback. So to take valuable capital that you have and utilize it when you could for example, to buy back shares that have no effect on the progression of your business, meaning the actual fundamentals of your business, the sale of product, the manufacturing of product, the marketing of product, the delivery of product, the marketing of product, to me is what's critical. And then you have to get into the decision of, do we do something today that maybe we looked at a year ago in a different climate, a different environment, when today the companies that could do share buybacks, had access to plenty of capital, and today there's no access to capital. I mean, you have companies that had $2.7 billion market caps a few months ago that are approaching zero. And you have companies that, look, I'm a businessman. I don't claim to be an engineer, though I went to Caltech and I'm a pretty smart guy. I let the engineers do the engineering. I let the marketing guys do the marketing. And I let the business guys like me go out and handle the business. That's why I'm still in business after a decade and I haven't gone anywhere and don't plan on going anywhere. And I've seen guys come and go. I've bought in a couple of them. I bought in Bollinger, who, for all intents and purposes, was, months away from being out of business. And, bought Elms because I thought it was a good strategic move. It was money well spent. MULN has spent, since inception, $577 million to create billions of dollars of value. And why I say that is, typically, Jim, who has spent most of his career at General Motors, can tell you when they start a program on any kind of vehicle, commercial, consumer, whatever it is, even small car, there's a certain amount of money that has to get spent and a certain amount of time that's spent to go from design to start a production. And I've never seen that be, and Jim, you can jump in at any time. The cost to do that is in the billions, and I say with the B, the billions of dollars. So for us, and not just in the billions of dollars, but years, meaning 7, 8 years in the making. So when you take a company, and I'm proud of what we've done, we've taken two vehicles, not just one, two vehicles, and fully homologated them and got them EPA certified and started to sell them. And we spent $577 million since inception to do everything, not $3 billion on one vehicle to get nowhere. And then you look at the next point. What is your bill of materials? Look at your bill of material. If your bill of materials is more than you could possibly sell the vehicle for, then what are you really doing? Any multiple of zero is zero, and zero will eventually catch up to you. So not only did we make sure we were fiscally responsible in how we approached how we were going to make vehicles, we were also fiscally responsible in looking at the paths to not only start a production, but to physical sales and marketing of our vehicles. And lastly, the most important part, are we going to be able to create positive gross margin per vehicle? And it starts with your bill of materials. When you have $180,000, like some of these other guys, for their bill of materials, and you're selling a vehicle for $65,000, you got real serious problems. So we made sure that we were fiscally responsible and frugal with how we approached it from day one. And today we show positive gross margin on not only class 1, but class 3. Not a lot of guys can say that. And I can say that. and Jim can say that. But I will have Jim interject from an OEM perspective to put it in perspective for people that really don't know or don't want to take, a person's word for it that's been in the space for 10 years, maybe somebody that's been in it for 42, on what the really magnitude and what's really happening to these other guys that never realized the true cost to get to home plate from first base versus the approach MULN took. Jim, you want to interject?
Yeah, I think that, to be redundant, but Dave's right, is, our programs all started with the Bs. And, you can look at any of the public filings when GM kicks off a program, Ford takes on the E-Transit, they might spend 600 just on the plant. We spent 25 or 30 on that plant. So the numbers are in completely different, stratospheres as far as what the OEMs will go at with one of their mainstream vehicle programs. Look at what Rivian has spent to date. Look what Fisker, he's well over $1 billion. So if you're going from zero, to all done in the way they went, not the way that we've gone at MULN, then it's in the Bs, 1, 2, or 3 Bs. It's not if it's a B, it's more well over a B. So one of the Cadillac programs when we went through the so-called Renaissance and started the new styling, that program was $6 billion. And, that's just was kind of normal, $1 billion a car. So it's that kind of, it's those kind of numbers that unfortunately shake people out that try and look at Arrival was over, a couple billion. And you can't raise that much cash to stay alive long enough to get to production. And then Dave said, it's just remarkable. Really, we're still even seeing press releases now that, hey, I only lost $34,000 a vehicle. Look how good I am. It's like, you got to be kidding. Like, how long can that last? Now, if you're GM and Ford, you can last a while. But if you're a startup and that's all you're doing, that doesn't last very long before, you don't make it. So we've been super cost conscious, as David said, about every one of our vehicles has positive margin at launch. It has to. There is no other way. There was never a scenario that we weren't going to do that. That's just one of our religions.
Yeah, appreciate it. And then I think this is the last question. And I think I don't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me at this point. But since it's asked and approved, so I'll ask this question: we offer paid dividends to your shareholders.
All right, I'll answer that question.
Yeah.
And I'm not laughing. I mean, I just, it amazes me. But so we have never, right? Historically, we've never declared any dividends or common stock, and we have no present intentions of paying any cash dividends in the foreseeable, in the foreseeable future. As and you got to look at this, ChaCha, from this perspective, right? As any earnings will be used to help generate growth. Anything we make, we want to reinvest into our company first. Let's become generational. Let's become profitable, and then let's share with the shareholders, right? The decision on the payment of dividends in the future rests within the discretion of the board of directors and will depend upon, among other things, our earnings, capital requirements, and financial conditions, as well as other relevant factors. Those relevant factors are going to come into play as it relates to, does the company have an opportunity to expand its business, on a great opportunity to, as you mentioned earlier, let's say a class 2? Does it use capital it has available to execute on a great opportunity, or does it reinvest that in the form of a dividend? Little story for you. Coming out of the Bill Clinton administration, one of the things that Bill Clinton did that was really great was he reduced, first time any president has reduced the U.S. deficit to zero. He literally created what we call a surplus. After he'd left office after 8 years, George Bush Jr. came into the presidency, and the very first thing he did was give away all of the surplus, gave it back to the country. You can call them shareholders, gave it back to them. After his time in office, he spent 8 years, and they asked him, they said, what was the one biggest mistake you think you made during your administration? He says, I should have never gave that money. That the country could have used it. We wouldn't have, such a great deficit, and things would have been different, and the interest that we had to pay and all the things. So when you look at giving away money, make sure there isn't other usages that could expand the potential to somewhere down the road give a dividend that would then be beneficial not only to the company but to the shareholder themselves, right? Be profitable, be generational, and then give back.
Yeah, thank you, David. So I think that kind of completes all the questions I have queued up for you. I know there's entire 50 odds questions that been asked, and hopefully that can be answered down the road, and hopefully we can invite you to the space call, right, or regularly down the road. So
We would love to.
yeah, appreciate your time, and I will kind of leave the last remark to David and James, and I really appreciate it, and some of folks here are definitely really appreciate you being on the call, and James as well. So thank you much.
Well, thank you, ChaCha, for having us. And let me finish by, and then I'll give Jim an opportunity to give a closing statement. I want to thank every shareholder that's supported MULN from day one. I know that it's been a very trying time. It's not just been trying for MULN, but it's been for the entire space that we occupy. MULN is trying to separate itself with clarity, that MULN is focused on commercial vehicles, focused on the future, focused on profitability, focused on profit, literally gross margin on vehicles that nobody else in the space can say today that they have a positive gross margin. We want to take pride in the fact that we're still here talking to you today, and we're still moving forward as we always have. Trying times bring the best out of people. And I told somebody today when I heard that Fisker was having issues, I said, look, that turns me on. It makes me want to work harder. Not the fact that Fisker is having problems, but the fact that I have to be the change in the space. I got to go out there, and instead of working 18 hours a day, I'm going to work 20 hours a day. And Jim can contest to it. Jim, is on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. I'm talking to him at, I don't know, 4 or 5 every morning. And so, so the point I'm making is, sometimes, great leaders work harder, right? The difference between success and failure is the person who's successful just doesn't quit and he works nonstop. Sometimes, good things are hard to come by and you got to work extra hard to accomplish them. And I know that Jim, for 42 years, has the same work ethic that I have. We work. I mean, I don't think, Jim, you and I have had a weekend where we haven't worked. And we're putting together opportunities and talking to customers, and it's a 24/7 7-day a week job for us. But again, I appreciate everybody's support. I know that it's been tough, and we feel everybody's pain. We've taken that pain as well, and we plan to be the change in the entire space. Jim, I'll let you give your closing statement.
Yeah, mine is as usual redundant, but simple. Is that we think we made the right call and focusing everything on commercial, and the market's right for us, very open for us. We got good product at exactly the right prices. Nobody's paying a premium to buy these, as challenged some of the retail space, and we're ready to take off. So we're very optimistic about what's going to come here in the next few months.
All right, appreciate it, James, David. Thank you again, and hopefully we can connect in the time. Hopefully not too far. Hopefully in weeks and months, with the great news followed by it. So,
ChaCha, you're always welcome, and you're more than welcome to visit the facility in Fullerton whenever you'd like. I'm very proud of it. I'm actually going there tomorrow. They're going to demonstrate some of the new lines that they've put up, and maybe I'll shoot some videos and post them on my social media just to share it with our loyal followers and people that want to see development and see what we've been working on. We'll always continue to share as much as we can, within the constraints of the law. With that, ChaCha, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to the shareholders, and I think Jim conveys the same sentiment. And again, we're more than happy to come on and share our thoughts with you at any time.
All right. Again, thank you, David. Thank you, James. I know it's a late night on the other side, so good night, and we'll talk to you
Well,
soon.
no problem. You're welcome. See you, ChaCha.
All right. Thank you.